Welcome. In this video, we will try to explain and illustrate you all about pop culture in the Roaring Twenties. What a time to be alive. Imagine a period of great economic growth that allowed leisure to be a thing, new forms of entertainment being born, along with the creation of the radio and the earliest forms of TV, and most importantly, the birth of pop culture. In this first segment, we will cover from the 1900s all the way up to the 1930s, and we will separate it by continents. Enjoy.
Oh, the Roaring Twenties. What a better place to start than America. The great streak the US had started with the rise of Hollywood as the entertainment emporium it is known as today. Along with the creation of this empire came Birth of a Nation, which is regarded as one of the greatest films of this time, even against modern-day, more expensive movies. And what a better character to illustrate this phenomenon than Charlie Chaplin himself. He was one of the biggest figures in American films. His work is regarded as one of the best ever made. At one point, he was so expensive no production could hire him. This time period saw the beginning of one of entertainment giants, the radio, which had its first transmission in 1906 by Reginald Aubrey in Massachusetts, but the guy didn't have nearly enough, so he claimed also the first radio broadcast with live commentary and even some music in 1920. These years also saw the rise of Bela Blasco, the first ever Dracula. That's right, Dracula is not that old. What's great about him is the fact that no matter how many new interpretations of the famous Dracula, he's still regarded as the best Dracula ever. Later down the road, the NBC was also created. But let's go away from cinema and more into shows, with one of the most famous stars of all time, Harry Houdini, which was, by the way, not his real name. He was actually called Eric Weiss, but it didn't have as much impact as the great Harry Houdini. Truly amazing how these individuals managed to make a living.
Now for Europe, a time of advancement indeed. In this time frame, Georges Méliès, a Frenchman who built the first movie in Europe and directed the first ever adaptation of Cinderella into a big screen. He also contributed in creating some of the most used film techniques today. Speaking of acting techniques, the Stanislavski form of acting was conceived, which stands today as the preferred method of acting for many. For the movie industries, we have two very important events, the first being the production of The Sheik, which is regarded as the European equivalent of Birth of a Nation, and as our second event, the creation of the Iconoscope by Vladimir Kozma, which was the first TV transmission tube. For our movie icon, we went for Ivo Novello. While he was famous for his acting, he also took part in World War I, broadcasting nationalistic songs to the soldiers in the front. He wrote famous musicals as well. Moving on to the music, the first issue of the famous chart Billboard was released, which listed the top songs of the year in the UK. One of its three founders is General Electric. Enrico Caruso was an opera singer.
Asia, land of traditions and culture, underwent quite a revolution in terms of entertainment. Advances were quite radical and very different to what people were used to see. That's why, for our event, most are movies, because of the great impact they had for being such a novelty. For our first important character, we have Sessue Hayakawa, who was a Japanese actor, and even though he was also famous in Hollywood, he remained as a great presence in Japan, making him the most famous actor of the 20s in Asia. He married another film star similar to him, Sasuru Aoki. While they met and worked for Hollywood, the films they made in Asia were so iconic that they became symbols for pop culture in Japan. We could call them the first celebrity couple. For our third actor, we have Ran Lingyao, who started her career at the mind-blowing age of 16. Not only that, but she became the most inspiration for dozens of Chinese novels and stories. Not to mention, she became the biggest Chinese star in cinema. For our event, we have the filming of the movie Lovers in Love, which speaks widely of Chinese lifestyles. Best part is, it is one of the few movies this old that are still available to watch. The predecessor of Man Pop was born, Chindai Q, which was a combo of jazz and folk. Let's not forget the best Chinese movie according to the Chinese, A Diary of Chuji's Travel, which is well regarded as the best Japanese film of the 1920s. Shanghai became Oriental Hollywood, making it the capital of entertainment in Asia.
And that will be all from us for this segment. A time period of great advancement in pop culture, but also a period of poverty and suffering.
Now, for the second part, we will speak about pop culture, but this time from 1936 to 1970. For consistency's sake, we will keep the same order. First America, then Europe, and lastly Asia.
America. Thankfully, things were looking way better economically than in the last segment. What a better present to start this than the king himself. That's right, Elvis Presley, who was born in 1935 and had one of the most profitable careers in the history of entertainment. He still stands unchallenged as the king of rock and roll. Sadly, in 1977, he beat the dust. Everything great eventually meets its end. Speaking of great, Norma Jean Mortensen, the embodiment of pop culture, stepped on the scene. Better known as Marilyn Monroe, she became a very important sex symbol and was a respected, not to mention beautiful actress. She worked for the TV network and studio Fox, which was founded in 1936. Speaking of the birth of giants, we have McDonald's, the father of obesity, which started out in 1955 in Oak Brook, Illinois. Returning to music, we have two very important characters. The father of blues, W.C. Handy, which was the most important songwriter of this era and shaped forever the almighty blues. And what a better person to close this off than the man, the legend, Jimi Hendrix, who died in 1970.
In this segment, Great Britain in particular, the Legend Factory brought to the world many great and iconic bands and personalities, such as Deep Purple, John Lennon, who made it into the limelight, giving birth to a giant career and became one of rock's icons permanently. In the same year, another giant of British rock was born, the illustrious band The Animals, which spawned the likes of Eric Clapton. Let's go Overkill on Giants, The Unkillable. Rolling Stones, who stand today as the oldest rock band still standing, were founded in 1962. Let's go for the then unexplored area of drugs and music, with the famous band Pink Floyd. Jumping into the scene in 1965, head start by Roger Waters, who brought the band to fame with AIDS, allowed the increasing drug culture in the world at the time. This time also saw the birth of many revolutions, including the birth of metal with the band Black Sabbath being created in 1968, introducing a new sound to the mainstream. For our final great celebrity, we have the unforgettable Freddie Mercury, who took British rock in great heights and achieved enormous success.
Asia, the land of cartoons? Apparently, this made up a huge portion of entertainment back there. At that time, Nintendo became the giant we know it as today. And while it was founded back in 1890s, it only started venturing into the entertainment world in the early 1940s. Thanks to their fourth CEO, Satoru Iwata, who made this huge change possible. A short while later, K-pop started. Its earliest form of development. That's right, K-pop. It isn't such a new thing as there are records of its presence as early as 1945. Getting into the actual cartoons, the iconic anime Astro Boy was conceived in 1952 by Osamu Tezuka, who based his work heavily in Disney. He could actually be regarded as the Asian Walt Disney. Now, for the movie industry, we have the classic movie Godzilla, filmed in 1954. Gotta love the classics. To close this last segment, we have the popularization of anime all around the world in 1961, which achieved international fame and broke massive records in sales. And what a better example of an international anime than Dragon Ball Z, which was created by Akira Toriyama.
That's all for the second part, a thankfully stabler period in time, which was more pop culture loaded time frame with the birth of rock and some of the world's most iconic celebrities even to this date. For the final section, you know how it goes. Same format, same quality, same writing, but from the 1970s to the 2000s. There was so much content in America we could have made it only about it, so don't be surprised if some iconic celebrities are left out. Enjoy.
America. Remember how in the first segment everything seemed so tribal and not pop culture-ish? Well, no more. This period saw one of the biggest growths in entertainment, which literally made us pick 3 from the 20 characters we had. First in our list, we have the king of pop, Michael Jackson, who got his start on the band Jackson's 5, founded in 1970. He later became so famous it sucked the black out of him. With sales comparable to the Beatles and other giants,
He was so huge that when he died, he broke the record for most televised death in 2009, because there's a record for that apparently. While we speak of massive success, we have Kurt Cobain, one of the founders of the band Nirvana, which stands today as one of the best-selling and most famous bands of all his time. They got so famous that Kurt couldn't take it and lost the fight against depression, blowing his brains out with a shotgun in 1995. Speaking of massive bands, we have the creation of Metallica in 1980 and Guns N' Roses 5 years later in 1985, led by the singer and drunk lord Axl Rose, who is one of the richest and worst behaved celebrities of all time. Lastly, we have the popularization of cassettes in the 80s, which are seen as an icon representative of said age.
Now for Europe, which does not get anywhere near up short, giving us even more legends, such as the internationally famous, the band that needs no introduction, Led Zeppelin, which was founded in 1972 by illustrious Jimmy Page, our first character. Robert Plant, who is considered as one of the top vocalists in history. Led Zeppelin is the second best-selling band in the world, just beaten by the Beatles. They would have actually surpassed them if it wasn't for the death of their drummer, John Bonzo Bonham, who passed in 1980 at the young age of 32 by drowning with his own puke after getting real wasted. What a way to go! The band immediately disbanded in his honor in the same year. Speaking of legends, we have the spaceman Major Tom, that's right, David Bowie, who sadly passed away in January of 2016. A career worth remembering indeed. Speaking of the death of legends, we have the iconic murder of John Lennon in 1980. Next up, we have the foundation of one of the rock's most iconic bands, AC/DC, by Angus Young, who can be found in the top 100 guitarists of all time. His band achieved international success and is regarded of some of the best rock ever made.
For the moment we have been waiting for, Asia. Starting with local celebrities, we have the Korean equivalent of Elvis Presley, Kim Gun-mo, who literally has a Guinness World Record for the most sold album in Korea. Now, for basically every event, we have another Nintendo CEO, Shigeru Miyamoto, who is responsible for many achievements in Nintendo, such as the creation of Mario Bros. In 1983 and Pokemon in 1997, two of Nintendo's most important landmarks, which popularized Nintendo in 1985. Speaking of entertainment, we got Pac-Man created in 1980. Next up, we have Kung Fu masters and actors. Bruce Lee, who died in 1973. And the man, the meme, the legend himself. We proudly present Jackie Chan, who is the best suited to close this video. Starring in more than 50 films and going at his age of 63, has made everyone important there is to meet, and managed to appear in almost every work we delivered. Truly legendary.
So overall, a great topic to talk about. Just a bit harsh on its first years, which thanks to the wars made it even harder to have any form of entertainment. However, as time gets better, we can see the rise of music in Europe, especially Britain, to be later challenged by the once dry America and Asia, giving us such legends as Bruce Lee, Satoru Iwata, and of course, Jackie Chan. We thank you for watching.